Hello everyone, and welcome to the Aquele Tour Durban virtual edition. Hope everyone's doing well. Thanks for tuning in. I am glad to announce that Tony Harding is with us again in the commentary box. As you can see, we've widened up the camera angle. So, Tony, thanks for joining us today with the live virtual Tour Durban.
Well, it's good to be here again. I see today we're doing the London pretzel route, 55.6 Ks. And yeah, it looks like a bit of a pretzel with those two bumps along the way.
Yeah, it's definitely not an easy route. 55.6 Ks, 531 meters of climbing. But if you look at where the climbing actually comes into play, it's on Fox Hill and the Box Hill. I mean, if you're thinking about Durban and that sort of area, Fox Hill is very familiar with the guys who race down in Durban. So it's quite nice to see the similarities there. Two climbs, 2.4 Ks, the first one with an average gradient of 4.9%. The second one, Box Hill, with 3 kilometers, average gradient of 4.3%. That's coming just before a nice long downhill before the finish line. So I think that's going to put the sting in the legs for the guys. What do you think?
Milo, when you watch some of the real live racing to Tour of Britain, etc., and they use Fox Hill and Box Hill, it's a great place for the guys actually to put in a good attack. It's not the biggest climb out there, but I think coming in the stage where it comes in this race, I think if the guys are on it there and they put in a little bit of a hard effort, they could split the field. We've seen the field being split on this weekend's women race. We saw Ashley Mulman-Pasio doing a great job getting rid of the field, and I think the guys and girls can do the same on this route.
Definitely. 10 minutes to go before the guys head off onto the London pretzel route. This is the virtual Tour Durban. It's very exciting. If you know the Tour Durban itself, it's we try to match up these routes to be quite similar. But if you have done the Tour Durban before, it heads from the Moses Mabhida Stadium down in Durban. It goes up the M7 towards Pinetown before heading back down the M19 towards Durban. You head up the north coast and you head back towards Durban, and it's normally a sprint finish. The sprinters can normally bring it back on the downhill, and it's a very exciting race, one on the calendar that all the pro teams normally make an effort to attend, and it is one of the safest, most beautiful routes in South Africa. So it's great to see. Unfortunately, not able to do the actual race this year, so they're heading to the virtual world. A massive thank you to the sponsors of the event. If we just head over to mention a few of them. So there's the sponsor page. So as always, Aquele, the main sponsor of the Tour Durban, Cycle Lab getting involved, the Sharks, and it's all in. This event is normally run, or is always run, to support the Domino Foundation. Tony, do you know anything about the Domino Foundation?
Well, I'm not too aware of the Domino Foundation, but you waxing on lyrical, yeah, you're a real banana boy, so you know the roads, you know exactly where it goes, and perhaps you can tell us about the Domino Foundation.
It's for relief, justice and empowerment, as you can see.
Okay, well, we need some of that in this country at the moment.
Cornubia Mall also getting involved, and Durban, the warmest place to be at this time of the year, especially in winter. There's no such thing as winter in Durban. Lived there for a good portion of my life, and ever since I've moved up to Joburg, I've always wanted to kind of spend the winter time in Durban because it's nice and warm. So it's the warmest place to be this time of the year. So let's head over to the start line of the virtual race. There's 8 minutes to go.
Milo, last year's race was a good breakaway. I think there was a 5 or 6 man breakaway again. You had guys like Tokozani was in there. You had Louis Visser, I think Dylan Girdlestone was up there. Stephen van Heerden was in there, and they managed to stay away to the end of the race. And Stephen van Heerden won the race last year. It was a great win for him and a great win for his team, who've really had good results over the years coming down to the Tour de Durban.
Definitely, there's been some pretty big names who have won this race in the past. Nolan Hoffman has won it on a few occasions. Reynard Butler, the one year the whole of the team road cover actually rode away. They all 5 of them, I think, got into a breakaway. It was I think Brendan Davids winning it, but yeah, definitely some big names have won this race in the past. It sometimes comes down to a bunch sprint, but there has been a few occasions where the breakaway has survived. But I see a few familiar names on the start line today. We have Tyron White. He's been a very big Zwift racer in our last Support SA Talent series. He finished second overall, just behind JP Lloyd. So some familiar names on the start line.
Miles, I see that none of the Office Guru boys are on the start line today. So I think having won the first series, and the boss man being a big Liverpool supporter that he is, he's watching a game against Chelsea tonight where they will finally they've won the title, but they'll get crowned. And I think perhaps he's got all his boys there at his house passing him beers and things. He works for them through the season, and I think he's maybe got them there. They're going to get quite a few beers down the throat this evening, and that's the reason why we haven't got him sitting commentating with you.
Brilliant. So they decided to take the week off after winning the first series. So this is officially the start of the second series in the Support SA Talent Virtual Racing Series. So the first series was won by JP Lloyd from Team Office Guru. They decided to take the week off. So the Office Guru boys not on the start line today, unfortunately. But we're still in for a very good race. I think it might give a few other riders a chance.
Milo, tell us a little bit about how this second series is going to work. It's not going to be as many races again, is it?
Yes, so it's going to run over the next 6 weeks. The first 2 races in the series are the virtual tour of Durban. So this week is the virtual tour of Durban, and next week as well, and it forms part of the 6-week series. So the format works very similar to the last series. It's a 200 Rand donation fee, which goes to supporting the Domino Foundation as well as the Phil Liggett Foundation, and those are 2 brilliant causes which will benefit from the series, and it will run over a period of 6 weeks. So very similar format to the previous series, but it is a little bit shorter.
Oh, it's great to see. I see Alistair Garnett. I don't know if he's on the start line from the practice, but he's saying evening everyone, and thanks to Support SA Talent for this initiative. It's good to see Alistair out there. And I encourage everybody, with the lack of racing we have at the moment on the roads, this is the way that we actually have to keep ourselves going, and we have to keep ourselves racing. And while we understand that it's not for everyone, you know what, even if it's not for you, come and have some fun. It's really a good challenge. Challenge some of your mates. If you win, you win. If you don't win, who cares? It's not going down in any history book. It doesn't mean that your form is anywhere less than the guy who wins. It's about playing the game.
Definitely, and it is a game. There's power-ups that these guys have learned to use over this last couple of weeks. You really have to adapt to the gamification side of things, but like you say, it's not a true reflection of how riders perform out on the road, but it's a different format of racing. So it does appeal to some people, but like you say, with no racing out on the road, it is a very good alternative at the moment. Today's race and series once again brought to you by Trade Route Active and Duelhof Wines. They have been very loyal sponsors over the last couple of weeks, and it's great to have Brett Duncan always tuning in and always one of the first people to comment in the comment section. He is from Trade Route Active and become a very loyal supporter of our virtual races. So thank you to them. Greg Stedman also commenting. Good evening, Greg. Thanks for tuning in. We're in for a very good race today. Let's run through some of the names here. There's about 60 to 70 riders on the start line, give or take. It has changed over the course of the afternoon with more people getting involved. I've seen Ken Main on the start line. I've seen Tyron White, Brian Kuzak, the Wood Shack, Luke Chambers there as well. So it's great to see the Durban boys getting to the start line and enjoying their local event.
Dylan Geary's up there. Callum Ormiston's up there. Callum's just come back from a really hard training camp in Mpumalanga area, where there's some of the days they were doing 200 k's on their bike. Anybody who knows that part of the world, 200 k's on your bike is equivalent to a good 240, 250 k's here in the Joburg area. So let's see how that affects him. I see Andre Negrini's there, always a good guy to watch in this kind of racing. And these guys, it's a way of just keeping themselves going. It's difficult to be motivated at this time, but this is all fun. If you watch the Tour de France editions this weekend, you'll see how serious those guys take it. I mean, they've got fans blowing on them. They've got guys standing with towels that are cooled with ice. They've got people handing them their bottles, and handing them energy bars. So it's proper racing. You know, you need to, if you can do all of those things in the game, you're giving yourself that advantage.
We're going to be crossing over to this main page. It's called the donations page. Throughout tonight's race, this is a donations page. What you can do is you can scan this this little QR code here, and you're able to donate to the Full Legged Foundation. So get involved. It's very easy. You just pick up your phone, you scan that little code, and you will get prompted to a donations page. So if you are feeling generous, please feel free to donate as much as you like. That it does go a long way. The Full Legged Foundation helps fund South African youngsters to compete on the international stage. So it's a great cause, and yeah, if you follow cycling, these guys, it's pretty much a self-funded sport in South Africa. So these guys are having to fund themselves to go to world champs, to represent South Africa overseas. So that those funds do go a long way to helping the talented youngsters compete on the international stage. 50 seconds to go, and these guys are off. As always, this race starts absolutely flat out. There's no hanging around, and jeez, it's a big effort to get to the front of the bunch. You got to make sure you're nice and early, so you get a slot on the start line, at the front of the start line, should I say.
I see Callum Ormiston's name's popped up there, but I think it's his dad, Ewan. So, you know, I don't know if it is you, Ewan. How's it? How you doing? Good to have you watching. Guys, please share with everybody. Let's get people following this. It's good for the riders as well. Send them messages, encourage them through the Facebook page. You know, these guys all get off their bikes and they go and look at these things. And, you know, you want to get them a message. You want some tips from them. Ask them how they play the game, what they think works best for them. Engage with them.
We're watching Callum Ormiston's screen, and the guys are off. It's go time. We are watching Callum's screen. Callum Ormiston, the Pro Touch boy, the youngster from Team Pro Touch. Tony just mentioned he came from a training camp. He does live in that area, so he's very familiar with those roads. He is a very light built type of rider, so definitely a climber for the future. How's his form looking? Have you been chatting to him?
His form's good. You know, it's like everybody's battling with motivation at this point in time. A youngster like him who's just joined the Pro Touch squad at the beginning of the year, he was looking forward to a great season, a lot of international racing. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened for him. He still just has to keep his head down, do the job. He had some great results on some of the climbs this weekend. They challenged some Strava points, and he was up there with them. So yeah, I think his motivation is good, and I think he's feeding off the older guys in the team. He's learning a hell of a lot, and that's what it's about. You know, he's still young. He needs to gain that experience. He's coached by Alistair, and yeah, you know, he's in a good place.
We encourage you guys to obviously leave comments in the Facebook feed. We can engage and ask us a few questions, get involved. But like you say, Callum, as a youngster, you're always trying to prove yourself to the older guys. So he must have been trying to race the likes of Ken May and Jade Julius up all those climbs on the training camp.
I don't think JD was in the shape to take Callum on at this point in time. You know, you can see a guy like Jade. Jade is really a professional athlete. But I think JD, he also finds it difficult to get that motivation. Looks like he's picked up a couple of kilos, but that can be expected. You know, he's not racing. When he's at his racing weight, JD is a hard guy to beat. This might not be the right platform for him, but when you put Jade on the road, he becomes an absolute animal and a beast. Callum would have had the upper hand, and I'm sure Callum would have enjoyed having the upper hand at this latest training camp.
Brilliant. That's a very horrible place to go to for a training camp if you don't have the form. You end up almost walking up some of the climbs if you're not fit enough. So it's actually a place that quite a few of the international teams have come out to train in their off season. During December, we've seen the likes of Quickstep, Mitchelton Scott. I know when I rode there last, I looked at my Strava at the end of the ride. I thought I was doing quite well, but I saw the likes of Daryl Impey, Simon Yates and Adam Yates. They're all up there at the top of the leaderboard. So it is quite an amazing place to go out and train.
This is a big bunch at the moment. You have got Brad Goveris is in here. I've seen his name come up once or twice. I've seen Stephen van Heerden's in here. It looks like Manus Potgieter, an old pro, is in there. good to see you racing these guys. Andres Negrini's in there. I've seen Kent Main's name. I've seen Callum Ormiston's name. Young Dylan Gary's in here. So there's a lot of guys. I see one of the Steel and Pipes. I don't know who that is. Mulman is in there. This is still a big bunch, and these guys are not going slowly.
No, heading, it looks like they've been consistently going between 40 and 50k now. Only 2.5k's into the total 55k's, but those two little kickers of a climb come towards the end of the race, and I think that's going to play a massive kind of role in splitting up this bunch. You can see there the London Eye in the background, so these guys are definitely in London.
Yeah, Marlo, it looks like we're heading along part of the embankment along the River Thames, and the London Eye there. We should be, if I'm right, I'm not sure if we're coming towards the Houses of Parliament soon, Big Ben, or in the opposite direction. I can't see it on the skyline, but yeah, I mean, this is pretty much how that road in London looks.
Flat and fast. Before we actually crossed over to the start line, we saw a bit of rain. So it looks like it's cleared up, and it's probably one of the sunniest days that London's seen in a long time. It's not a cloud in the sky.
Yeah, typical London weather. 5 minutes time you can have snow and mist, and it can become terrible. But at the moment, conditions look good, roads look good, lots of shadows on the road. So there's not a lot of cloud in the sky, and these guys are moving 47 k's an hour at the moment. Not
a lot of climbing, but relative to the distance of the race, with the climbing coming the last third of the race, 550 meters of climbing. It's not a lot for 50k's, but considering it's coming in that last little bit, these guys have quite a hard second part of the race. We did chat to Tyron White in the first few races in the first part of the series, the first series, should I say, and he's very into the whole gamification of this whole thing. He was giving us tips on how he saves himself when he uses his power-ups, so it does play a massive role. These guys, you can see, are heading up a 5% gradient now towards the circle. I think, what's that statue called?
I don't know. I haven't seen the one with the bicycle, but I mean, this is getting close to the Royal Mile. If you had gone under that arch, you would go towards Buckingham Palace. That could be Trafalgar, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
there is a big statue at Trafalgar. So, this is on one road away now from the Royal Mile.
You really do know London. Have you lived there in the past?
I'm just an old traveller.
What's happening here? We see a few attacks going off the front, but I don't think there's going to be anything happening just yet. But these races always flat and fast. Well, hard, should I say, not flat and fast. It does go uphill every now and then, but definitely not an easy effort. We were watching I was watching the virtual Tour de France over the weekend. Ryan Gibbons, our South African national champion, winning the first stage, and like you were saying, there was a video that I saw. I don't know if it went round or if you saw it, Tony, but like you were saying, the teams behind these athletes, I think they had their DSs pressing spacebar to activate their power-ups at the exact moment. So this virtual racing, it's something different, but like you say, if things like just having a simple fan blowing in your face can have a massive difference to your performance.
Look, I think we saw how much they've embraced it there. That training camp they were on, their bikes were all set up there, and the lead that Ryan got from them on that first stage sort of carried them through to the end. At the end, after the 4 stages of the tour, they had a massive advantage in maintaining that yellow jersey. I saw Dougie Ryder there on one of the video clips, and I thought he was going to start dishing out kisses again like he has done in the past. He was really ecstatic, and it was great. It was great to see, it's a virtual race. It was great to see what Ashley Moolman-Passio did on the Saturday. We saw her hubby Cole standing there as well, encouraging her and shouting for her and putting wet towels over her. So if you really embrace this game and you have the help there, guys, it makes a huge difference to the guy who's actually pedaling on that bicycle.
And I think for a team like NTT, who eventually won the virtual Tour de France overall, for them, in kind of not having the results they've kind of wished for in the last year, I think it's a massive confidence booster and a kind of a morale booster going into the actual Tour de France. So I think other than just being a virtual race that these riders have had to take part in, I think it for the confidence of a team going into the real races, I think it can make a massive difference. Where when they're trying to compete against the more established, bigger budgeted type of teams.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, you saw they used different riders for different stages, but it gives them a bit of an indication of what the level of the whole team is. So there was nobody there in that team that really disappointed. There were guys up there all the time. Louis Meintjes was up there, Ryan was up there, Stefan de Bot was up there. You know, nobody really let the side down. We see Andres Negrini has made a little attack. He's a real strong rider, still a youngster, I would say still got a lot to learn in cycling, although he's been on the bike for a couple of years, but he's great, being followed by the youngster Stedman from Steel and Pipes. And yeah, it looks like they have got a little bit of a gap going there. 3 seconds to the chasing bunch, these 3 riders with Henderson in third. And yeah, we see the bunch slowly starting to drag them back one at a time.
Andries has become a seasonal Zwifter the last couple of weeks. We've seen him training a lot on this platform, racing a lot as well. He's also been putting up 1 or 2 live streams of him racing. So he's become a real contender when it comes to this type of indoor virtual racing, but also some familiar names trying to close the gap there. We see Brendan van Eerden, also a youngster from the Motion, is it Pure Motion?
It's good to see. I see Tyron White is up there as well. Dion Janjatek is also there. He rode for Pro Touch last year. He's riding for Steel and Pipes now. That's a good bunch of youngsters Steel and Pipes have got. And, Greg's doing a good job with those boys. They really race well. They feed off each other. Dion hasn't done too many of these races yet, so I think he might be at a little bit of a disadvantage. He's got a bit to learn still in this game, but it's good to see his name up here.
Rolling at 55k an hour at the moment. Jeez, these guys are going quite a pace. 7k is in already. Only 48 meters of climbing coming towards the end. But yeah, Tyron White, Brendan van Eerden, Brad Guveris, jeez, another Zwifting professional. He finished third in the last series. Unfortunately missed out on his race winning points in the very first race. I think that put him a little bit behind. He actually would have ended up winning the first series, but he didn't get his entry in time, so I think he's learned this time round. Luke Chambers, another very strong rider from Durban as well. He usually rides for the Bluff team, but I think he's gone solo. He's a professional vet, not a veteran, but he saves animals. That's his profession. So it's great to see him back on the bike and putting in a solid effort on Zwift. He has been getting involved in the KZN series. He's been up there quite a few races I have been seeing, so it's great to see Luke representing.
Yeah, Marlo, and this is such close racing. We saw the end of the first series that the Pro Touch boys lost it by 1 point to Office Guru. No excuses. They were sitting on a training camp. They had no power, but 1 point, 1 second. Marlo, you know what that feels like, that 1 second.
Yeah.
You know, you've been at the wrong end of that 1 second before. So there were a couple of guys who were a little bit bleak, having lost it by 1 point thanks to Icecom. But that's part of the game in South Africa at the moment as well. Make sure your Jenny's fueled up.
It is. It's definitely not a great feeling to lose by such a close margin, but it's fantastic that the racing actually came down to such a tight finish. I think the race organizers or the team calculating the points, they were a bit nervous to kind of see if it came down to a tie, because they were still deciding how they were going to count back. But it came down to the wire. It came down to the very, very last race, the very last sprint, and it's exciting that racing can actually come down to, or this type of racing can come down to such a tight margin. But it is not a great feeling to lose by such a small margin.
You can see one of the famous London double-decker buses here on the left. They're all over London still, and it's great to see. We've got full road closure. The boys are pedaling along at a nice 46 k's an hour, 227 watts, around about 200 watt average. So you can see it's pretty flat, but yeah, these guys are into the race now, and it is going to get more difficult. When those climbs do come, you will see a difference being made.
A usual proud mom in the comment section, Isabel, cheering on her son, Warren, another up-and-coming youngster, which is good to see him getting involved in racing as often as possible. He was right up there in the last series, where he was slowly but surely making his way and closing the gap to the elite. So it's great to see him still progressing and representing.
Mala, I see Isabel even, comment good luck Waza, and she gives him 3 4-leaf clovers. So, yeah, I mean, he's got the luck of the Irish on his side tonight.
That's awesome.
A little bit far from Ireland at the moment, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot closer to Ireland than we are in Tour de Durban. So yeah, good luck Waza.
If you look at Travis Steadman's data there in the top left-hand corner, it's going 200 watts. His heart rate's 131 beats. That's kind of zone 2 for these guys. They're not in any type of racing mode at the moment.
No one's angry yet. I see Brad's there, and if anybody's going to get them, Brad and Tyron, and both of those guys know how this game works. They're really good at virtual racing. So, with Brad and Tyron there, Kent there's another one who's good. He's always up on the leaderboard. These guys will ignite it. Somebody's going to get angry sooner or later and push those heart rates up a little bit.
It's just about when.
Yep.
Andres Negrini, also still in idle mode, 142 beats per minute in his heart rate there. Cadence looking pretty good, between 80 and 90. But I think they're all waiting for those 2 climbs, Fox Hill and Box Hill. That's where the race is going to get lit up.
Well, somebody's going to let the fox out the box.
It's going to happen.
And there's a vet in here, so maybe he stands a good chance as well. A vet is a veterinary surgeon, not a vet old man.
Brilliant. I saw Brian Kuzak representing there from the Wood Shack. He must be in his veterans 50 to 55 now. I'm guessing, but he's always someone who's wanted to stick it to the elites. He's never scared of putting in a few attacks on a group ride when he's trying to race the elites. So it's going to be good to see how he finishes up today.
I'm surprised that JD hasn't taken to this kind of racing, because I see a couple of the guys here racing without their helmets, showing off their fancy hairdos. And Jade's a bit of a, he fancies his hairstyle. So this would be great for you to show off that hairstyle, JD.
I agree. What's the color of his hair these days? Is it has he decided to put in different highlights?
Yeah, he's most probably got some kind of little flash going there, highlight. Bit of a ladies' man. The girls love it.
JD Julius from Team Pro Touch Continental. Come get involved with the Tour Durban number 2. All you need is a trainer and a power meter.
I've built up a huge fan base for you already, boy. Come and show the girls what you look like.
What's happening here? We see a couple of attacks going off the front. Still very fast, 50k an hour. Who's putting in a few attacks there? See Brian Kuzak up there. Dion's up there.
Andres Negrini's up there again. Callum Ormiston's up there. Waza Mulman is up there. So, yeah, there's a lot of youngsters there. Steadman, some of the young guys actually taking it to the older boys.
Let's break it down a little bit. Let's start all the way from the beginning with this whole virtual thing. So these guys are sitting on the indoor trainers. Their trainers are communicating to their computer, and what it does is it communicates with this game called Zwift, which is what we're currently playing on at the moment, and the game communicates back to the trainer, where it gives a realistic feel of the terrain that these guys are riding. So in terms of technology, it's amazing to be able to see these type of things developing, and especially in these times where there's no racing out on the road. It's absolutely brilliant. But for those who don't understand the way that this type of racing works, these guys are sitting at home, normally in their kitchens or in their lounges, staring at the TV or their computers, and they're playing this game essentially, and the amount of power that they push down onto the pedals gets translated into a power number, which is their watts, which you can see in the top left hand corner, and then that gets divided by their weight, which gives them their power to weight ratio, and that essentially tells them how hard they're going relative to everyone else. So if you look there in the right hand side, it gives all the riders information, so you can see there in terms of the amount of time that riders are ahead or behind each other, and it gives the watts per kilo, and that tells them how fast they're going.
So Marlo, this looks like the Royal Mile. It's a pink piece of road that goes towards the palace.
There we go.
So, they're on the road towards the palace. They're looking good. They're riding at a good pace, and yeah, it's the game. Once you learn this game and how it works, you do have an advantage. And all these little things that Milo's spoken about, somebody standing over your shoulder, helping you with your power-ups and at the right time, and those things, all make a hell of a difference in winning and losing.
Tony, we've seen this kind of scientific approach to cycling develop over the last couple of years. Yeah, these guys are going around a little tight bend there. They don't have to steer while they're on their trainer, which is fortunate. Otherwise, these guys who are not wearing helmets might fall off their trainers. But in terms of the scientific kind of approach to it, this power to weight number, you get something called your functional threshold power, which is your FTP for the abbreviated version, and that kind of becomes your cycling CV. We've seen kind of the NTT professional World Tour team kind of scout riders from their continental setup to eventually become professionals just using this type of approach. From a team owner, is that something that you'll look at before signing a rider?
Well, I think it is incredibly important. It is definitely the way the world of cycling has gone. If I recall back to the years when a guy like Michael Rogers from Australia was winning the World Time Trial, and they were talking about him pushing out just over 6 watts per kilo, we looked at them and we thought, come on, what are you talking about? You're crazy. But yeah, he was able to maintain that for the full 55 minutes of a time trial, full duration, and that was years back. So there's a lot of development that has happened there, and a lot more knowledge has been gathered since then. And yeah, it is definitely something you would look at. Why would you not look at that? That's like, racing a Formula V12 against a V6. It's all part of the guy's engine and what he's capable of, and you want to look at those things. Obviously, a big sprinter, he's going to have far higher power output than a skinny little climber, but when it comes down to that functional threshold, that's when those numbers all sort of balance out, and you can see if the guy's got a good engine or not.
And in terms of numbers, what would kind of a South African professional be pushing out? In FTP, that's your average power which you can push for 1 hour when it comes down to a test. So in terms of that number, anything?
Well, Milo, I think most of our guys are very close to the 6 watts per kilo.
Wow, that's a lot of power.
And some of them 5.35 to 5.65 is a big difference in, it might seem like a few decimals, but it's a hell of a lot when it comes to watts. But yeah, I would say they're averaging the high 5s. But yeah, it would be great to have a lot more guys into the 6s. Then you've got real good riders, and that's normally what happens when they're picked up from a continental team to a pro continental team. The whole training becomes more scientific. Obviously, a world tour team, we see with Chris moving teams next year, where they're saying he's going to take a lot of the expertise he has and take it to the Israel Startup Nation. Though that is years and years and years of scientific research and experience they have. So you can get a rider who will go from a continental team to a pro conti. He will lift his power, and so he'll move on to a pro tour, world tour team, and again they would expect that jump to occur.
Amazing. So, but I mean, numbers are one thing. It does come down to how you race, how you sit in the bunch, how you save yourself, how you can sit in the slipstream, how you can ride in the wind as well, because I mean there's
absolutely, Milo. If you think back to, and I'm going back a little bit, yeah, but you had a guy like, he commentates now on the Tour de France, Robbie McEwen. Robbie McEwen never really had a team to lead him out, but Robbie McEwen won the green jersey in the Tour de France, and you never ever saw Robbie McEwen in a stage until the last 200 meters. And then he wouldn't have a big lead out train like the Eric Zabels and those guys, the Petakis used to have. Robbie would make his way, bounce from left to right, find a guy, and he'd win the stage. So you have to have that racecraft as well. You have to know when to save yourself, how to save yourself, when to burn those matches. I always say to my guys, you've only got one box of matches for the race. If you're going to light them all up in the first 50 Ks, you're going to have nothing at the end. So it doesn't matter how good your numbers are. If you're going to burn those numbers in the beginning, you're going to be pretty dead come the end of the race.
100%. So you got to also know how to ride your bike as well as have the numbers, I guess. And in terms of those numbers, it's also sprinters will have a high power output for a short time, and your kind of time trial riders will have a higher output for a longer time. But where the power comes into play a lot is with the time trial. So if you have a high power output and you can sustain it for a long time, it's you versus you and the clock. And time trials are where it becomes very important. Someone like Daryl Impey has a massive engine. He comes to this. He was our national time trial champion currently, as well as our South African road champion for 2 years, the last 2 years. Ryan Gibbons snatching that title from him this year, but another rider has amazing power and proven himself on winning a stage in the Tour de France. There's actually a memory came up on my Facebook feed the other day of when he actually won the stage last year, and it was quite a sad moment because we actually can't watch it now, but it is coming up.
But if you look at those guys and their power for as far as the time trial is concerned, you've got all of them. You've got Kent. That's what makes him a good time trialer, is that power. You've got Ryan Gibbons, a sprinter, but he's also a good time trialer. He's up there. Stefan de Bot, not a sprinter, but a good time trialer. He can maintain that power output for the duration of a time trial. So if he rides within his Chris Froome, they always complain that he's a dashboard rider when it comes to his time trial. He keeps looking at his power meter, and if it's there, use it. If you're good and you have that ability, you must definitely use it. It's going to make you a winner.
Definitely. Guys, get your cell phones out because we're going to head over to the donations page now, where you can use your camera to open the donations page. So get your camera out. But in the meantime, we're going to head over to Joe van der Winkel. So this is Joe van der Winkel's screen. This is the ladies' race currently. This is the D batch. All ladies start, and Joe won the very first series, which ended last week. So she came on top of the leaderboard in our ladies series, and this is her taking part in the virtual tour of Durban. So well done to Joe. She's always she just loves riding her bike, whether it's out on the road, on the trainer. She's always getting involved, and she's such a great ambassador for cycling. So it's great to have Joe back on the start line for the start of series number 2. She's been around for years, Tony.
Yeah,
Still competing.
Joe has so much talent. She has so much passion. She's really always at the forefront of trying to make things better for women's cycling. I take my hat off to her. It hasn't always been easy, but yeah, an incredible ambassador for the sport, and it's good to have people like that. She also then is able to perform still at an incredibly high level. A mom, her kids can be extremely proud of what she achieves.
It's unbelievable. I don't know how she does it. She runs a full-time family. She has a full-time job, and she's still on top of her game. A few other names that we can recognize here: Chloe Batterson from Steel and Pipes Racing, also another name who's been racing week in, week out. And it's a few ladies who we see. We can see a lot of South African flags, but also a few international riders getting involved. There's a Frenchman or French woman there. What are those flags there? That's a Danish flag. So once again, we can't close this off to just being South African, which is quite nice. It gives a little bit of international feel coming to. So these guys coming all the way from overseas to race the Tour Durban, essentially around London.
Yeah, cycling definitely gets you around. You see parts of the world that you never dreamed possible. The only sad thing about it is normally you're working so hard that you actually don't get to take in the scenery. So, but you make friends all over the world. Cycling has become very much a global sport, and what a good place for kids to just experience life and participate and compete in something that they're really passionate about. It's healthy, it's good for you, and it's great to see. And it's great to see the older people, and I mean this with no disrespect, but like Joanne, up there racing against different women, youngsters, all different ages, and she's still able to hold her own. And she's really, the Cycle Nation can really be proud of her. She's an absolute gem. I'm sure she does a hell of a lot for that team, looking after them, building the morale, helping them guide youngsters. Great to have her racing.
We're hoping to get her team manager in for a chat, old Lincoln King, another team manager who's been around a very long time, and also has quite a character in the sport of cycling. But like I mentioned, get your phones out. We're going to head over to the donations page. Boom, there it is. So get your camera, Scan that QR code and get your $20 in there. Come on, guys. Be generous. Be generous. This is for a good cause. It helps South African talent compete on the international stage and also goes towards the Domino Foundation. So, for a good cause, thank you to everyone getting involved. Race presented by Trade Route Active and Duelhof Wines. Duelhof Wines, let's head over to their page as well. As always, you can get up to 50% discount on your next wine purchase. Unfortunately, they're not able to deliver at the moment due to the lockdown and the regulations, but use the coupon code PROTOUCH and it'll get you up to 50% discount on selected wine. That's a bonus. 50% when it comes to wine, especially this type of quality of wine, is a lot. Tony, Duelhof, have you tasted their wine? What is your review?
Marlo, I'm not much of the wine drinker, but my wife has, and she tells me that it's first class. I know that Rebecca Elliott doesn't mind chasing a bottle or two down every now and again, and she swears by it. So, I'm going to leave that to the expert wine drinkers. I'm not really much of an expert in that field. I love the wine route, and I love visiting there. But they tell me that it's a great wine, so don't be scared. And 50% discount, well, that's a no-brainer, folks.
And they don't just make wine; they make gin as well. I know we had Jamie taste their gin a couple of weeks ago, and he said it was absolutely fantastic. So they don't just make wine; they make gin as well. So if you're into gin, get your purchase in. I'm sure there's some discount on some gin as well.
Hello, back here with the guys, 22.7 k's in, still rapid rate, 40 k's an hour, 381 watts at the moment, watching Kent Main, 389, 417. So these guys are starting to get a little bit jumpy. They want to start make this race happen.
You got to watch on the right hand side of the screen there. When their power to weight number goes into the orange zone, you know they're putting in a massive effort. So you're watching Kent's screen here. He's doing 600 watts. He's trying to put in a big attack. He's trying to get away from the bunch. He knows if it comes down to a sprint, a guy like Brad Guveris probably has a slightly bigger kick on him. So he's going to have to do some damage on the climbs to be able to get away. But if you look at that gap there now, he's about 6-7 seconds ahead of the peloton, and he's not waiting around. He wants to light this race up.
And you see in second place you got young Travis, who also, his figures were into the orange every now and again. He's pushing out 6.6 at the moment. So you can see he's coming across to Kent. The gap isn't big, 6 seconds to the rest of the bunch as Travis gets onto the back of Kent's wheel and passes him. Let's see Kent get in the slipstream there a little bit and hopefully bring that heart rate down.
These are two very classy riders. If there's someone, or if there's a pair that can put in some damage and ride away, these are the two men that can do it for sure. I did read an article the other day, the Junior National Championships, that's getting taken place on this virtual platform. Is that true?
I believe that selection for Worlds is happening via this platform.
I see.
Milo, once again, I said it earlier, this doesn't suit everyone. It doesn't suit every kind of rider. So, but if that's the decision that's been made, you have to live with it. That's the decision that's been taken. It is difficult. Some guys don't have the equipment to be able to participate. And I think that's why you suddenly see Dion in here as well. On the road, Dion is super strong. He's really a talented kid. And I think he's actually figured, if he wants to have a shot there, he better start getting into the virtual racing scene. So that's why we see him on the start line today as well.
It's unfortunate, but it's also great to see that they're trying to make alternatives to still have that selection and to give the opportunity to all the riders. So, but like you say, it does come down to the right equipment. For example, guys who are using smart trainers, which communicates with their computers, have a slightly bigger advantage over someone who's just on a normal trainer with a power meter, for example, because their power meter is communicating to the actual system, but it's not giving that realistic feel of when they go uphill or downhill. So it does come down to a kind of equipment sort of issue at the end of the day, but there is still selection, which is a good thing. It's sad to kind of see that it's not the national championships is not kind of taking place, but hopefully in the near future they'll be able to organize that event.
Yeah, look, and these guys are young. They will get over it. Unfortunately, some of them are in their last year as juniors. But those events as juniors, it often changes. There's a lot that changes in your whole physical makeup as you get on in years. So these guys will still be around for a long time. It is a disappointment. Of course, it's a disappointment. A lot of them look to their final year as a junior and think, well, that's where they're going to stamp their or make their mark and get a ride elsewhere. But yeah, at the moment we have to deal the cards we're being dealt, and it's good to see these youngsters. They're up here, they're racing. I mean, for them to be racing where they are here against guys like Brad, Kent, Tyron, it's super to see the youngsters up there. There's real talent in these youngsters, and it bodes well for the future of cycling.
Brian Kuzak, the veteran cyclist, still hanging in there with the pros. It's great to see. He's a tough guy, and he's not going to let these pros get a gap at all. So he's going to definitely go until he falls off his trainer. But as we saw there, Ken putting a big attack. He got a bit of a gap, but straight away the guys didn't let him go too far. They brought them back in. We saw a couple of those power to weights going into the orange, and the group is a lot smaller though than what it was.
22 riders there, Milo. So yeah, the group has definitely shrunk. And you'll find that when Kent was on the front there and then young Travis came across to join them, that little bit of effort that it took would have spat some guys out the back here. And I don't know how far they are behind there. It looks like 18 seconds to the chasers, 25 seconds to the chasers. So there's a couple of guys who've been spat out quite a distance already.
That first climb comes at about 31 kilometers into the race, and it's 2.4 kilometers with a 5% gradient. So not too long before the very first climb starts, that's Fox Hill, before they smash it down the other side, and then head towards Box Hill, which is 3Ks with a 4.3% gradient. So I think these guys are saving themselves. The first sprint came at about 15 k's into the race, and Tyron White won that. We saw a green jersey next to his name there early on. There is another sprint which is called the Mall Sprint, and it's 200 meters long, and that comes in between the two climbs. So some exciting racing still to happen. I think we're still in idle mode for these riders. I think they're all waiting for that last few kilometers. But if you look at the size of the group, like you say, about 20 riders out of a total 47 that started. So I think there's going to be some splits happening soon.
Yeah, it's looking good. These guys are definitely sitting in the right positions. I see every now and again Kent moves forward slightly. Tyron makes sure he goes straight away. Brad Guveris goes straight away. And these are the guys who know what's happening in this game. They play this game really well. So we can see as we're moving still along the Thames here how dark it has become. London becomes dark incredibly quickly. But these guys all sitting good, 27.7 k's in, not too far till we hit that climb. And I think you will definitely see a couple of guys lighting a couple of those matches in their matchbox on that climb.
100%. Tony, any idea of when Team Pro Touch will be getting back to some racing? Well, we know the local stuff is out for now, but you guys racing internationally, is there any kind of positive news?
Milo, at the moment, it's all still very much waiting for this federation, not ours, overseas federations, and when they can lift the travel for us to go. It is part of the rider's job, so it can be seen as business. We've got a very, very strong block that our Director Sportive, Max, is working on in Asia. The idea would be to base the whole team in Asia for a good 3 to 4 months, not fly them home. And we're going to have to make sure that the guys are in the right physical condition, mentally and physically, to be able to do that. It's a long time to spend away from home. It is back in Asia. A lot of guys are still having a little bit of a fear of Asia. At the moment, though, there's quite a few events in Asia, international events that are being cancelled. I see the latest one that I saw today was the PGA Golf Tour isn't going to be doing their Asian block. So I'm hoping that things do change. It is incredibly difficult for these guys as professionals not to have goals that they're working towards for their motivation. But it is what it is, and our guys have had, after this training camp, I see that camaraderie is there, and they get back into it quickly. They become serious. It was good to have them all on their bikes again as a unit. They really did well, and you can see they feed off each other. So we need to be racing there. I'm hoping that we get a good 4-month block still out of South Africa.
we have seen especially with the UCI and the calendar that's coming up, all the racing is kind of condensed into 3 months. We've got all the classics, all the grand tours, and all the other races kind of just squished into one block. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I really do hope that you guys can get out onto the road. But I was just about to ask about your team morale and how it's going. So I'm glad to hear that it's all positive. The one thing I did learn from you being in your team was you've always got to punch as a fist and not poke with fingers, eh? You're always stronger together.
That's it. Much stronger together, Milo. You can knock them out if you put your fingers all into a fist. So, these guys are really good. They believe in each other. They're hungry to go out there and do the job. And it's a good bunch of young guys. I feel sorry for them. It's almost taking a year out of your career, And while some guys might take a little bit of a sabbatical, as they call it, and go and tour the world for a year on their yacht, these guys at their age, they don't want to be doing that. They want to be racing. They want to be mixing it with some of the best in the world. And unfortunately, we're sitting here on a virtual platform. But again, we've got to take our hats off to Aquila Virtual Tour Durban and the sponsors that are behind it that make this kind of thing happen. At least it keeps the guys on their bikes.
A massive thank you to the sponsors of Tour Durban, the main sponsor being Aquila. I always look forward to that Aquila that they give you at the end of the race of the Tour Durban. My favorite flavor is the lemon flavor. I always look forward to that. A massive thank you to Cycolab, the Sharks, Cornubia Mall, and obviously Durban, the warmest place to be. And as always, it's done for a great cause, the Domino Foundation. So all the donations that go towards the entry, there's a portion that goes back into the Domino Foundation. So guys, we really encourage you to get your donations in. It does help and does go a long way to the Domino Foundation as well as the Full Liggett Foundation. So thank you to all our sponsors, our presenting sponsor for the virtual side of things, Trade Route Active as always, and Dual Wines. So without the sponsors, this wouldn't be possible. Let's head back to the racing. I think that climb's coming up soon, Tony. Let's pay attention.
We're not too far away, and I think that looking at the Full Liggett Foundation, I spoke to Phil while he was out in his game farm near out Palabora way, and he said, well, he doesn't know how long he's going to be sitting here before he can return back to the UK. I don't know if he has managed to get back since then, but not a bad place to be stuck during lockdown and on a game farm in Palabora.
I was about to say, it could be stuck in Joburg.
As long as he's got enough Dolof wine with him,
yeah.
Because Phil's also, he loves his red grapes, his red grape juice. He's a real big fan of that. So, hopefully he was stocked up with enough of that, and him and Pat, as long as she had her camera, she could do a bit of photography. I'm sure they would have enjoyed themselves there.
Amazing. So he owns a nice little holiday home out in the Kruger Park. He loves spending time here in South Africa. He's known to come out here quite a lot. So he's not retired yet. He's still commentating on the turf. He's done I keep forgetting the number, but close to 50, if not 50, Tour de France commentaries, which is, in terms of a career, that is unbelievable. The voice of international cycling.
Well, I like to count or to mention Phil as a good friend of mine, and he's been around in cycling forever. He lost his his other voice in cycling, Paul Sherwin, a while ago. And years ago, Paul and Phil actually had a share in a gold mine.
Brilliant.
Apparently, Paul was working the gold mine a lot of the time, and even there was a rumour at one stage that Lance Armstrong had a small share in it. So a gold mine in Africa, it can't be too bad. Paul no longer with us, but yeah, what a great combo they made. That was really an exciting time of the year to sit for those 3 weeks listening to those guys. They've got a database of stats that I don't think anybody else in the world of cycling has on the Tour de France, the riders. You can ask them anything and they'll be able to find it in their stat book. It was a very close guarded piece of material that I often around a glass of wine or a couple of beers try to get my hands on it, but they never let it out of their sight.
Unbelievable. Such legends in the sport, and for him to be involved with Support SA Talent and setting up his legacy in South Africa, absolutely unbelievable. But as we speak, Tony, there are some attacks going off the front here. These guys aren't hanging around. This is the very first climb. This is called Fox Hill. You can see there the gradient in the top right-hand corner, 7%. These guys, the guys at the front now, are really not hanging around. If you look at the power to weight numbers, anything between 6 and 7 watts per kilo at the moment. Let's head over to the front of the bunch here. This is Dylan Geary's screen, still a junior in the sport, and he's now cranking up the 10% gradient, 11%. It's an average gradient of around 4%, but there are some sections in this climb that it really gets really steep. And
well, Dylan there in the pink looks a bit like Dan from Nam, eh?
Yeah.
He looks a bit like Dan Craven there. So,
yeah,
I don't know if...
inspired by the Namibian.
Yeah, inspired by Dan the Namibian.
Guys, to everyone tuning in, get your predictions in for the winner of the first virtual tour Durban in the comment section there. Give us your names.
Milo, you can see it's getting a bit more difficult now, hey? We're starting to string the guys out. The bunch is getting smaller. You've got Callum on the front with young Steadman. And yeah, this could be just a little bit of that mileage that he did over the last week in Mpumalanga helping him. But you've got good names there still. Andries Negrini is still up there, looking good. Kent Main is still up there in that group. Stefan van Heerden, is it? Oh, I don't know. I don't know if Stefan is still there.
Brendan van
Heerden's there. So Dion Janjutek is still there. So Wazo Mulman. There's great riders up here still and youngsters, which is really exciting to see.
Callum showing off his talent as a climber, putting in some massive power there to split up the bunch. Let's look at the damage being done. A small group now forming at the front. Remember, there is quite a long downhill coming up after this climb, so it does give a chance for the chasers to get back. But a group of about 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 riders now forming at the front of the bunch. I saw some of the stats from the Pro Touch guys at their training camp, and they did something like 32 hours of training in 1 week. That's, if you know anything about cycling, that's a big week.
And that's a huge week, and especially if you take the terrain we're talking about. You know, every day they had to go back either down Robbers Pass or up Robbers Pass. And that is a hell of a climb. There's many guys who've ridden in the national team before when we've gone out and held training camps there, when Robbers Pass is really a killer as you make your way back up to Crystal Springs Resort. So these guys, hopefully they're carrying some form through to the Quella Tour de Durban, and it's great to see both Kent and Callum up there. But yeah, the danger men seem to all be together.
Definitely. Dylan Geary putting in a very good effort there to be hanging around these type of names. Tyron White, as always, up in the front. He's no stranger to finishing on the podium. We have Travis Steadman up there. No, Andries Negrini also up there. I would love to see him put in a good result today.
And it's good to see, Dion Janjutek and Travis are teammates, and they're both still up here. So it's great to see those two young junior riders also mixing it up here.
Who's there dropping off the back in the green? I think that was Luke Chambers just distancing himself. You see Callum Ormiston taking some strain. He's 1 second behind. So who's putting... I think it's Travis Steadman. Let's head over to the front here.
Yeah, that's who it is. Travis is putting in a bit of a move here. 5.9 watts at that stage. But yeah, they're climbing steadily.
Average grade, well, not average, but they're going up an 8% gradient at the moment. Let's zoom out here a little bit just to see the damage being done. One by one, guys slowly falling off the back. But if you look at his heart rate there, 180. I'm guessing Travis Steadman, as a youngster of his age, can go anything close to about 200. So I think he's still got 1 or 2 gears which he can push.
Yeah, he's still got a couple of gears there. You don't want to keep it there too long though. But I don't think this climb is much longer, so they will recover on the downhill. And that always helps them. If you're not an absolute climber, it's always good to position yourself as close to the front of the bunch, filter through. When you get over the top, guys normally tend to sit up and relax a little bit, and you find your way back in the group. So good tactics. You could even use them, in the Zwifting. And yeah, you can see they're onto a bit of a descent now, so the guys will be recovering again. You will see those guys that are back by a second or two coming back into this group very quickly.
Just trying to get a closer look here at Dylan Geary's his hairstyle is, jeez, if he can grow a beard at his age looking like that, I'd be very impressed. But look at that style going, pink kit, Zwift bike, and a long hairdo and a massive beard. So that there was a thing going around once upon a time called beard watts. If you grew a beard, you got an extra few watts there. So brilliant to see the youngster Brendan van Heerden also in there. So there's actually 3 juniors in this group now: Travis Stedman, Dylan Geary, and as well as Brendan van Heerden. So see Callum Ormiston there putting in a big effort. He's now 44 seconds behind. So I think he could have been setting it up for his teammate Kent.
Kent's up there. I see young Dion has also been caught out on that climb. I see he's also sitting further back. He's sitting a good 15 seconds back. So let's see what happens on that descent. Callum seems to be going backwards though at a rate of knots. So perhaps that training has caught up to him. It is expected. You know, they only came back on Sunday. They've had the benefit of 3 days of some easy riding. Hopefully he has just turned his legs over, but he will only really see the advantage of that long base that he's done, or those long LSD, long slow distance that they've done. They'll start seeing the benefit of that in the next 2 weeks.
If we look at the time gaps there, we see Dion is kind of in no man's land, 25 seconds behind. Behind him is another little group, 36 seconds behind. So Luke Chambers in that chasing group as well. So if they can get together and do some chasing on the downhill, they could maybe get back, but I think it's just getting the time gap.
So the interesting thing to see as well, Milo, is I don't see Brad's name up here. So that little bump could have caught him out, and you know Brad is a master at the virtual racing. He's a good bike rider, not just a virtual racer. So, but he is a special in the virtual world, and yeah, it looks like that might have caught him out a little bit today as well.
Brad is in fact our national criterium champion, so very talented youngster as well. But,
huge engine.
If we look at the names up here, there's 6 riders left, and they just gapping it at the moment from the chasing group. But we saw Callum put in a massive effort. If he did do that on purpose to set it up for Kent, that would be some amazing team tactics. I know these, like a lot of these teams, use the Discord channel to be able to communicate while they're busy cycling. But
Milo, it is something that we've looked at. I did have a chat to Kent about it as well, and said, listen, you know, if we can use it, we need to use it. Whatever advantage you can. It's all about those small advantages that make a difference. Whether they have done that or not now, you know, it would be nice to be sitting here without actually knowing and saying, wow, that was their plan. But yeah, I think it could be a little bit of fatigue from a hard week of training, and that has just caught him out. He definitely did light it up on that climb, and Kent is in a great position, but yeah, to the detriment of his race. So he will sit there, lick his wounds, recover. I see he's quite far back now, but yeah, if it was, job well done.
Travis Stedman winning the KOM, the very first KOM. No, sorry, Tyron White. Sorry, got the names mixed around. So Tyron White won the polka dot jersey on the first climb. So he's also a danger man for today's race. But as we go on the downhill on the flatter section towards the second sprint, let's have a look at what's happening with the ladies' race. They should be coming very close to that climb. We got Francis Janssen van Rensburg, also a very talented youngster. She's the under 23 national champion, I think, from Head Bikes. So she's also a very talented young lady cyclist coming through the ranks. So in the front group here, some names to watch out for: Lauren Cannon, Joe van der Winkel, obviously, our Series 1 winner, Francis Janssen van Rensburg, as well as the Steel and Pipes rider.
Well, I think this suits Joe, although there is a gap now going. 5
Okay.
ladies are starting to gap the other 6, but Joe is one of those 5. So yeah, it could be a little bit of pressure being put on the front there. You know, she's in a good position. This is the kind of thing that they enjoy, and it looks to me like those riders being gapped. If these 5 actually keep the pace they're going at, they're going to cause that split to stay away.
Joe van der Winkel doing close to 300 watts. It's probably about 7 watts per kilo for Joe.
Yeah, Joe is really streamlined. You know, I don't think there's too much body fat on that lady. So yeah, that all helps. That all gives her an advantage as well on a bicycle. You know, it helps her to be the great athlete that she is. Obviously requires a lot of discipline. Also, as a mom feeding kids and a husband, you know, you got to watch out. So I don't know if the kids and hubby are all in the same kind of physical condition as Joe, but Joe definitely is a racer.
The Steel and Pipes rider Chloe Batterson taking some strain. She's now fallen 10 seconds behind this group of 5 riders, but there we see Lauren Cannon and Joe putting down the hurt.
Yep, Joe is putting them in a hurt box big time. Those at the back, you see how quickly that gap's open, 13, 14, 16 seconds. That crowd, I don't think will come back on the descent. You can see them there behind the back of the trees. But yeah, they're very much in no man's land at the moment. A good 17-second gap is, that's good.
It's going to
Bikes
be
rider looking good there as well, sitting next to Joe.
That's Francis, yeah.
Very, very good to see. So
Joe, the last couple of weeks, has been no stranger to attacking on the climb and time trialing to the finish line. In the final race last week, she had her work cut out for her when she finished second behind. I've gone blank. But the KZN rider, mountain biker, won the Sport SA Talent Series. Forgot her name now. It'll come back to me. I'll have to get back to you on that one. But she managed to win the last race in the first series last week. But Joe had enough points to be able to win the overall series. Joe attacks on the climbs, time trials to the finish. But there's another climb coming, so I think she must play this smart. Francis is also a very good rider, so I don't think she's going to be able to get rid of Francis that easily. But we see in the comments section Catherine White saying, "Go Chloe, you can do it." So hopefully Chloe can get back on the downhill to be able to put in a good effort for a podium.
The moment that gap is open to 24 seconds to a lone rider, and then from there after we over the 30 seconds. So 7% at the moment, 8%. This is hard. It's going to be very difficult for that crowd at the back to come back. We see it looks like a French lady in here, Berger. But yeah, Joanne definitely on the front, nice steady pace, just turning the pedals, and she looks very comfortable.
The rider went blank was Tiffany Keep.
Tiffany, a powerhouse of cycling.
She's not in today's race. Who else is there? Have we seen Kelsey? Kelsey van Schoor, is she?
No, I haven't seen Kelsey's name up on the leaderboard.
It was Tiffany Keep last week who won the last race. Let's try head over back to the men's race. I think they're going to be heading very close to that second climb. Let's head over. Let's cut across. Boom, there we go. Watching Ken's screen. Still 6 riders in the front. That gap stayed quite consistent, 40 seconds to the chasing group. But who we got here? Andries Negrini. We got Brendan van Heerden. We have Tyron White. We have Travis Stedman, Kent Main, and Dylan Geary. Those are our 6 breakaway companions at the moment. Group.
That's a great ride by Travis and by Dylan Geary. Looking really good up there with these guys. You know, I can't keep saying enough, but it's good to see these youngsters being able to mix it on this platform.
Unbelievable. So let's just want to have a look to see where that next climb is. Let's just want to look at our notes here. So it's just on about 45 kilometers when these riders will hit the next climb. So in terms of that second sprint, they should be very close to that second sprint coming up at the moment. It's called the Mall, and it's 200 meters long. But the second climb, Box Hill, 3 kilometers, 4.3%. That's going to be an opportunity for someone like Kent to maybe gap someone like Tyron White, who's a very powerful rider in the sprint. Who else is quite powerful there in the sprint? We've got Brendan van Heerden might also have to take the opportunity to be able to ride away from from the sprinters. But
Look, and young Travis is no slouch either. He's used to winning races, so he knows how to set himself up for that finish.
But yeah, I think Travis can wait for the sprint. I think he has enough power and a big kick to be able to out sprint these guys. So the guys who we have to watch out for on the climb are the guys who can't really pack out as many watts as the rest of the guys. So it's going to be very interesting to see. So who
Looks
won
like
that
Travis
sprint?
took it.
Travis took the sprint ahead of Kent. Were they going for it though? That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Because I think they have to
I
save
think
themselves.
they're saving themselves for this next bump in the road. But yeah, still, it's good to see that Travis is up there and he was able to take it.
Back on the road towards Buckingham Palace. Is this the road you said?
Yeah, this is the Royal Mile. Those.
There we go. There's Buckingham Palace in front.
That's it. That's it. There's some statues here. They don't quite look. They look like chipmunks now, but that's normally of lions. The 3 lions are on those statues. I don't see the flag flying, so I don't think the Queen is in residence at the moment. She's maybe on holiday somewhere.
Normally a few more tourists.
Yeah, well, yeah, they've managed to get proper road closure and ban everybody to the pubs.
Proper lockdown happening there. But so they've gone through the sprint, which means they are very close to that next climb, which comes at about probably in 5k's time. So, Jesus, I'm looking forward to this next climb. So that it's actually the climb that we came down in the opposite direction. If we look at the map, it looks like it's
the profile looks very similar.
It looks very
You're
similar.
Right, Miles.
So it's actually the climb the guys just went up, but in the opposite direction. They then come down that very fast downhill section, which they came up, and then towards the finish line, it's a little bit of a kick, but it's relatively flat. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to try and take the opportunity.
Look, there are 2 chasers behind them. One of them, Dian Janjutek and Wes Dog. They're 28 seconds behind.
They're actually closing the gap.
And that gap is coming down a little bit, but then the rest of them are minute 29. So there's 2 or 3 guys that could come back. However, they took some strain on that previous climb, and I think with this climb coming back now, that might just be the final nail in their coffin, so to speak.
I agree, but looking at Ken's power numbers, 200 watts, that's probably his coffee ride pace.
Absolutely.
So in terms of that power output, let's head over to Luke Chambers over here to see the type of numbers he's pushing. That can give us a good idea as to see if they're going to bring it. It looks like Luke's going solo now. He's not waiting for his breakaway companions, but if you look at his power, 300 watts in the top left compared to someone like Kent who's doing 200 watts. It's probably a good chance that they might close the gap. It's coming down. It was at 40 seconds. It's staying consistently there, about 26 seconds. So who's in this group? We got Luke Chambers, Dian, and Wes Dog.
Yeah, Wes Dog.
Wes Dog. We have Luke and Dian. So these 3 riders putting in a big effort now to try and bridge that gap. But 25 seconds is staying quite consistent. Very close to that climb. It's going to be interesting to see if they can close the gap. But let's head over to the front guns here. Still 200 watts here. Andres Negrini, his heart rate's only at 130. It's going to be anything between a 3 and 4 minute effort, I'm guessing.
That's definitely saving matches before you get to this next little bump because that really is that coffee shop kind of pace. So these guys could be chatting to each other.
Maybe they're all on the same Discord channel. They're just rigging the race and they're going easy. But I doubt it.
You see Tyron there on the front just moving off a little bit. Gapped them by a second.
Went
Tyron,
up to 5 watts per kilo.
Watch out, he's dangerous. He's up at 5.3, but then you got young Travis is sitting at 6.7 watts per kilo. So they're not letting him go as Travis puts himself into the orange and gives a burst of 8.3 to get across to Tyron. You can see his watts are climbing up there in the orange, 10.2 watts per kilo, and the rest of the guys from behind start reacting.
It's almost like in a proper race now when the breakaway is trying to, they're starting to watch each other. One guy attacks, the next guy has to close the gap. Everyone looks at each other, and they're kind of playing games at the moment. But Tyron's someone who would normally sit in the bunch and wait for the sprint, but he's probably getting a bit frustrated with the guys hanging around here. So he put in a big attack with Travis closing the gap. The other guy is only 2 seconds behind, but did that put the hurt in the legs for Tyron for the next climb? Maybe it's only time we're going to tell. It comes at about 50 k's into the race. The guys have done 46.5, and in terms of the amount of climbing that these guys will do, they've done 303 meters, and in total it's 550 meters of climbing. So about 250 meters of climbing in a very short space of time. So if you compare that to somewhere in Johannesburg, you're probably looking at about 2 Northcliffe climbs. So that's the amount of climbing these guys still got to do.
There's no panic from the chasers. You see how they sort of just slowly making their way back onto the wheel. And that's also the trick, don't panic. When you see that gap go, yes, you need to react as quick as possible, but there's no need to panic. While they had it there at 1 second, 2 seconds, they know one little effort and they're back there. Especially in Zwift racing, it's not that difficult to make up a 2-3 second gap.
So we're watching Travis Steedman's screen. This is going to be a good screen to watch coming into the final few kilometers. Yeah, they go down the ramp. We saw this a couple of moments ago when they were heading towards the climb, so they know that climb's coming up very soon. We'll just watch the gradients as it starts to head up. They're about 2 k's to go before the climb really kicks in.
Yeah, so we were on a bit of a descent. We've leveled out now again, and now the guys will start jostling for position, just starting to move themselves into a position where they feel if they need to put the hammer down, they're okay, they're good enough, they'll be able to go with it.
What we haven't seen in the men's race in the last 10 weeks is actually a solo rider heading to the finish line. It's always come down to a very small sprint or a big bunch sprint. So it'll be actually nice to see someone putting in a big effort and gapping the group. But
we did have Kent on one of the races though. Milo went away.
Yeah, but that was
I think it was a small gap, but yeah, I
forgot about that race. That was that they went up to Zwift.
That was it. So yeah, that really suited Kent though. So and I think Kent, again, depending on the fatigue that he has, but this little climb isn't really too much for him, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes now. They're sort of coming onto the climb, still going down a little bit, but here we go. Now we're up on 5%, 6%, 7%. We're starting to climb.
Dylan Geary.
And Dylan Geary in the pink, he's easy to spot, but yeah, he's decided, okay, let's see what we can do to these guys behind us. But you see they bring him in. Andries Negrini is up for it. Kent is up for it. This is going to be very interesting as we get closer to the top.
It's going to come down to patience. You're going to have to save your effort. You got to put in the effort at the right time to be able to do some damage.
And there we see now starting to string out, although we're only at 3%, but we're climbing again. And the minute the guys start stringing out in that one long line, the pace is up and it's starting to get difficult.
Travis now doing 350 watts, close to 400 watts. His heart rate is going to slowly start climbing, but it really kicks up. We saw earlier it kicked up to about 12-13% at some sections, so it's going to be the person who saved their energy for that really steep section that's going to do some damage. Tyron White won the polka dot jersey on the last climb, so he's no stranger to climbing. But this is now Travis Steedman putting in a big attack. It's going to Tyron White trying to close the gap. Brendan van Heerden straight on his wheel. Will this be a 3-man breakaway to the finish? Dylan Geary having to close the gap now. Who else we got there? Where's Kent? Is he? He's there 2 seconds behind. He's taking some strain.
Yeah, he's taking some strain for sure. That gap, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, is going to start opening now. Yeah, the youngsters are putting it down to them.
Brendan van Heerden, you can see there he had a little feather above his head. It disappeared, which means he engaged his lightweight, his featherweight power up, which makes him a little bit lighter for 15 seconds. So that's a big advantage, especially on a section like this, if you want to put in an attack. So Brendan van Heerden using his featherweight, and we can see 3 riders starting to pull away from another chasing 3. Brendan van Heerden, Travis Steedman, and Tyron White. 3 ahead with the 3 chasing: Kent Main, Dylan Geary, and Andries Negrini.
Well, let's see the 2 youngsters if they can take it to Tyron. Tyron really plays this game well. Travis is really consistent though. It's good to see him. He's up there all the time. He's not overdoing it, and he really looks comfortable still.
I hope Brendan can actually hang in here until the finish. It'll be it'll be a great result for him if he does manage to hang in there. But like you say, 2 juniors versus the veteran Zwift racer Tyrant. So, but we can see the 3 guys now slowly crawling their way back. I
No
think
panic. They've just kept their wattage pretty low, and slowly but surely they've just sort of brought it back onto the wheel. I think Travis, if he's watching this, he'll be ready to actually put in a little effort again. But yeah, the 5 riders together and all 6 very close being back together. Andres Negrini sitting in that 6th place. He'll get across that gap very easy. It's only a second and they're all back together.
Oh, I was getting excited there. Would have been a dash on the downhill to get back, but the 6 riders back together. As they've hit the climb, we've seen the gap for the chasing 3 guys
And there
also
you see
gone
Ken
up.
saved himself, and now he's putting in a little bit more effort. Still pedaling at 6.3 watts, but he's off the front, and he's obviously saved himself up there, knowing, okay, I'm feeling good. Let's see how far we got to go. Let's slowly start making it a bit more difficult.
100%. He knows how to pace himself. We saw him on that Alpe du Zwift stage. It was JP Lloyd. He went out quite early, and Kent didn't stress. He kept into his kind of threshold zone, and he brought JP back and put in an attack at the exact time. So Kent knows exactly how to pace himself and ride this type of terrain. But as we speak, Travis Steadman heading into 600 watt effort there to try and
Travis is now starting to fight the bike and fight himself. It's becoming really difficult, and it's great when you've got a bit of a gap like that and guys in between that are starting to, get to that red zone. It just makes it a bit easier. But it's good to see the youngster not giving up. He's still in there, and this is still very much anyone's race.
Ken still had a featherweight there, which he just used. It came above his head, and he clicked the activate button, and it's a great time to use something like that, because it just makes him a little bit lighter, even though he's already light, and it gives him a little bit of that advantage. But they've crawled him back once again. So who's in there? So it's Travis having to do the work there. Dylan Geary on his wheel.
Travis
Tyron
is
White
looking really good. Andres has been hanging out at the back, and that's not a bad move either. He's keeping himself there. He's maybe taken the foot off the gas a little bit, giving himself a chance to catch his breath, recover a little bit. And, he has a bit of a mountain biking background as well, so perhaps that descent, he fancies himself.
When these guys reach anything over 60k an hour, they go into the aero tuck. The avatars go into the aero tuck, and they save a bit of energy. So we've seen a lot of that. If you've been watching the virtual Tour de France, a lot of the riders actually use that. So if they start freewheeling on their trainers, their avatars go into the kind of aero tuck. So it's also part of the whole game on where you can save yourself at every little section. But as we speak, they've hit the top of the climb, and now they're heading down the hill.
Yep, we're on the descent, and we're in for a roller coaster ride to the finish now.
Total distance of 55 odd Ks, so there's about 4 Ks to go. It's coming down to a 6-man sprint in the very first virtual Tour Durban. Let's just confirm that distance quickly. 55.6 kilometers is the total distance, 531 meters of climbing.
I'm sure these boys can't wait for their Quilla when they get to the finish. Marla, I don't know if I'll be as fussy as you when it comes to the flavors. What, do you go and scratch around in the cold ice bins to find your flavor, or
Jeez, I'm seeing triple by the finish line, so I just hope that the friendly marshal knows the right flavor. Although there has been a few flavors. There's a black currant or a blueberry flavor which is actually which is sugar free. They brought out these sugar free versions which are very, very tasty. So I'm a big fan of Aquile. But yeah, check out this 10% gradient.
All the boys in orange now.
Yes, Tyron White.
Group Kent 8.4, Travis 8.1. They were all in orange there for a short period of time. So that really was an attack by everyone.
Wow, it's every man for himself. Who got the polka dot jersey? So Brendan van Heerden got the KOM there on the second climb. So Tyron White and Brendan van Heerden are 2 KOM winners today. But still, 6 guys, they weren't able to shake off any of their competition. So as you can see there, if they start freewheeling now, oh look at that, they're going to the aero tuck. Anything over 60k an hour So look at that. The guys who know how the game works, the guys who are still pedaling are wasting the energy. Yeah, but everyone in the air attack, who's that still pedaling? He needs
That
to.
looks like Kent.
Kent, you need a free wheel, bud. But all these guys in the air attack, you can see they're saving themselves. So who's it going to be out of the 6 riders in front? Who do you guys think in the comment section? I'm going with... jeez, I don't want to be too cliche here. I'm going to go with... I'm going to give Brendan van Heerden a go.
Good
I would-
man.
I
I
would-
think
I would love-
from past racing, Tyron stands a very good chance.
Yeah, of course.
But I would like to see Travis actually pull one out of the bag. Yeah, the youngster's been up there, he's been consistent, and it'll be very good for him to have this one.
Be a good confidence booster. He is a up-and-coming junior. In terms of the junior national champion, he's probably one of the favorites for 2020 if they do manage to hold that championship. So a name to look out for the future.
It's been a difficult year this, but I mean the last 3 years Pro Touch has had the junior champion in their squad, and this year just due to finances and we actually had to do away with our junior squad, but it would have been good to have the SA champ in the junior category for the 4th year in a row. I like the fact that Dion is riding with Travis in his team, and I think they're going to be a very, very strong force come nationals.
They're both second-year juniors.
They are, yes.
So they'll be moving into the under 23 ranks next year. So both have very bright futures in the sport, and it's always nice to see a couple of years down the line where these guys end up. I mean, you look at someone like Ryan Gibbons. I mean, just the other day we were racing against him, and now he's racing Grand Tours. I wouldn't say the Tour de France, but hopefully he does it this year. But yeah,
I think he's got a good chance. I think he's in that team again, and we're not too far from the finish now, Marlo.
No, we are in the final kilometer, according to our comms that we got. 55.6 kilometers is what we're looking out for. Whose screen should we watch here? Let's go with the race favorite, which is probably Tyron or Travis. Should we Tyron or Travis?
I'm going to go with Travis.
Okay, let's have a look at his arm.
Both the youngster.
Both riders from KZN, so they down in Durbs. So let's find Travis.
Come Kent, let's see your time trialing and make a move now. While it's flat, it's your only chance to gap them.
Let's go into Travis's helmet view.
There we go. Bit of a bump. 13, 14. Oh, this is a
15.
little kicker.
This is a little kicker for
This is a
the
little
finish.
kicker.
Oh, all their power to weight going to the orange section, but we're in the last couple of 100 meters now, so we're watching Travis. This is Travis's helmet view, so if he was out on the road, this is exactly what he would be seeing. Oh, but who's coming around here?
That's Kent going around to the front at the moment, into the last corner. It might be a bit soon to hit the front, Kent boy, but here comes Andres Negrini. He was sitting at the back, really taking it easy, and I think he has played a good game here. He saved himself a little bit, but Tyron is there with him.
Our comms might be a little bit off in terms of that distance, but notice in the top left-hand corner the power numbers. As soon as those power numbers shoot up to anything close to 800, 1,000 watts, you know these guys are engaging their absolute max effort towards the finish line. So the heart rate's still quite low, 160, but now it's just cat and mouse until the finish line. Travis Stedman, we're watching his helmet view. You can see 4 riders in front of him. He's sitting in the slipstream waiting to pounce for the line.
Good time to attack up the left, Kent.
Kent saving himself for the sprint. He's fancying himself for the sprint finish. But who's that? Dylan Geary coming to the front. Brendan van Heerden straight on his wheel. And Travis Stedman now in 3rd position. Oh, but yeah, there goes. Stand
there
up.
Goes.
They got an aero boost there. Who was that?
Andres Negrini.
Andres Negrini putting in a very early attack, but they're going to have to jump onto his wheel. This is coming to the finish.
Goes Kent.
Yeah, we're watching Travis Stedman. It looks like Andres Negrini gapping the guys at the moment. He's 4 seconds ahead. They must be in the last kilometer. Kent Main
using a power up there.
Ken Main, Tyron White, they're all having to put in a max effort to try and get on Andres' wheel now. But Andres not fancying himself in a sprint. He has put in 300 meters to go. We are watching Travis Stedman's screen. He's coming
Kent
straight
comes
past
him.
And this is Travis Stedman going 800 watts, 13 watts per kilo for the finish line. He had to engage his sprint very early there to catch Andres. But looks like who's this coming next to him?
It could be
Oh,
Kent.
it's close. Oh, that was a good finish.
I think Kent might have got it on the line.
Ah.
He listened to me when I said attack up the left-hand side, I'm sure.
So head to head there, we are in Travis's helmet view. It was one rider on his left-hand side, which just came to pip him on the line. But it's going to be interesting to see who was that. That was a very, very interesting sprint. Let's you can see there even now just cooling down. Travis Steadman. So what happened there was Andres put in an early attack for the line. 300 meters to go. Travis decided to open up his sprint to close the gap to Andres, and just on the line, someone just got ahead of Travis, it looked like, but we're not sure who. You think it was Kent, right, Tony?
I think it was Kent. That was a great ride by the youngsters, though. Very, very well done. They can be very happy with their effort on their bikes this afternoon.
It could have been also Brennan van Eerden. So unofficial. You say it's Kent. I'm going with Brendan. I saw his name on the inside there, just before the finish line, but it could have been Kent. But a very, very close finish between 6 riders. So unofficial results. We know Travis was second. We're not quite sure who the winner was. Well, maybe it all comes down to how the system registers them. We can't really go according to.
And we didn't have a good view of the line, so hopefully their cameras are working and they're going to spit out that data soon.
So 6 riders coming to the line for the very first virtual tour Durban, which was on the London Pretzel. Let's head over to the ladies' race. It's going to be interesting to see how their race is planned out. Let's have a look. Let's head over to Joe's screen. Joe van der Winkel. So 3 riders out in front: Lauren Cannon, Francis Janssen van Rensburg, as well as Joe. So 3 lady
looking
riders.
Good, 5%. So they're on a climb. Joe's looking very good there.
So Joe, our series winner, our very first series winner in the Sport SA Thailand Virtual Racing Series. So that's why she's going with the yellow jersey. She knows she was our first series winner. She's representing there.
Yeah, representing Cycle Nation, and Head Bike's also being represented up there, as well as Gumtree Race Bike. So got some ladies here, 3 different teams, all fighting for the win.
Definitely. So this is the climb. They got about 6 k's to go when they get to the top of the climb. But it looks like Joe putting in an effort. It's not shaking these 2 ladies off. So it's great to see the youngsters. Oh, there we go. Tony, I think. Oh no, that's Box Hill. That's the KOM. So Tony was tapping me on the shoulder here, saying that little. On the left there, he saw Kent's name, and it looks like what happened? Live stream ended. Is that true? Are we live? In the comments, let us know. Apparently the live stream went dead. Looks all live to me. Someone just sent me a message and said the live stream ended. We'll just carry on as if it didn't. So Kent Main was the fastest up Box Hill, 5 minutes and 58 seconds. So that is a big effort. That's a big effort. A 6-minute effort for a climb. But who's putting in an attack here? It says
looks like Joe's doing the work, yeah. Or Gumtree Racing. It's the Gumtree Racing rider.
4 seconds ahead. Webb is, let's say, over to her. Courtney Webb?
That's it.
I think it's Courtney.
I think it's Courtney, yep.
So she's won the polka dot jersey and the green jersey. And
she's looking very good, eh?
Looking very strong.
Nice. It's a good gap. That's a good quick 5 seconds that she's pulled out there.
She's on someone with someone like Joe.
Yeah, and we're still on a bit of a 5% gradient, yeah. So
7 second gap.
There's a feather up being used. Just make yourself a little bit lighter. Hopefully close that gap.
We got sent a messages now saying the live stream has ended, but it doesn't look like it to me. Guys, are we live? Yes, no? In the ladies' race, not too long to go. 5 k's to go for these ladies. Courtney Webb putting in an attack. She's now 10 seconds ahead of Joe, which is quite an achievement considering the kind of the quality of rider.
Yeah, the quality of rider, the terrain that suits her as well, going up that climb at Box Hill. So yeah, this is really, really good racing, and it's a gap that's opened very quickly.
Box Hill, the guys who set the fastest time at Box Hill is on your left hand side of the screen there. So I mean, it's the usual names up there: Travis Stedman, Kent's setting the fastest time, Andres Negrini, Dylan Geary, the Steel and Pipes rider, Travis Stedman, just the usual names. In the top 10 there, Luke Chambers, Brian Kuzak in the top 10 for one of the fastest riders at Box Hill. So great to see all these amazing times getting set. In the ladies race, we see there 31 ladies started today's race, and this is the very first lady out on the road, Courtney Webb. That's a good turnout for a lady. So that's obviously all the ladies, not just South Africans, but that's a good turnout for the ladies. Probably one of the biggest starting fields we've seen over the last couple of weeks.
This is a great ride by Courtney. There's a 23-second gap to Joanne there, and that's no mean feat. We know what kind of a rider Joanne is, so good job, Courtney. Well done. Very, very impressive.
Well, she has got both green jerseys and both polka dot jerseys, but she is in time trial mode right now. 25 seconds is a big gap, and she's not long to go now. 5Ks to go roughly, and 1 hour 21 minutes of riding. I mean, we've seen these Zwift races over the last couple of weeks be anything between 35 and 50 minutes or so. So today's race relatively long when it comes to a Zwift route or a Zwift race, which kind of is a good thing if we're trying to replicate a proper South African classic like the Tour Durban. So 1 hour 22 minutes of racing. Riders of this kind of standard know their FTP, their functional threshold power, so normally they can judge their effort when it comes to kind of how many watts they can push for a certain amount of time. So it's normally you're sitting at your FTP or just above your FTP most of the race. But you can see there, puts in the aero tuck. She knows that if you freewheel, you go into the aero tuck over 60 kilometers an hour. But in terms of watts, freewheeling on the downhill towards the finish. Joe van der Winkel dropping down 48 seconds now behind Courtney, and Francis Janssen van Rensburg a further 30 seconds behind Joe. So the podium very split up here, which we have seen in the ladies race over the last couple of weeks. It has been very small groups and solo riders all over the place. So
got the French lady there, Berger, in at second, 23 seconds behind, but I think even that gap is too big.
She started in the C batch, which means these D batch riders actually caught her.
Okay, so she's been spat out. I see the
yeah,
C there.
She's quite far behind.
She's not featuring in this.
My profile there 5 minutes behind, so I'm still in the start line.
Oh, you're doing well, Amanda. You're just warming up.
Yeah. Yeah, so to get access to be able to watch this race, we have to have a profile in the race. So that's my avatar sitting on the start line. So that's how it works. So Courtney Webb here from Gumtree Race. Gumtree Racing?
Gumtree Race Bike.
Gumtree Race Bike. Okay. That's it. So maybe a new sponsor in the sport, which is great to see. The sport that needs sponsorship at the moment. But once again, thanks to our presenting sponsors, Trade Route Active and Jewel of Wines, and to the Quelle Tour Durban for bringing this race to us today. In these tough times where we can't race the actual event, the virtual race is a very close second. So this is the first lady out on the road, solo time trialing to the finish.
On the descent, not far to go, and she's looking really, really comfortable. She's going to have that little kicker towards the end, but that's not going to bother her, not with the gap she's got. 46 seconds, yeah, we're turning onto the boards, and we'll soon make our way up the stairs, the little kicker.
It goes to about 11%.
Yeah, it's difficult, but she'll be feeling very comfortable where she is with this gap. She's not going to have to be watching over her shoulder. She'll be able to do it quite easily, maintain her pace, and just make sure she gets to that finish line.
Brilliant. So, almost under 1K to go. 1.5 hours of riding, roughly. So, I mean, these these riders are putting in a big effort before dinner. They either eat before or eat afterwards. What's the right call there in terms of
Well, I
nutrition?
think if you want to eat, you got to eat a good almost 3 hours before. Have something good to eat, maybe snack before the event. But it's definitely going to be important that they put some carbs and protein back into their system after the race. And you got that window period. If you can get something in that first hour, it's only going to help speed up your recovery and make you feel much better tomorrow when you get on your bike again. There's a little kicker done.
15%.
She's at, that was 15%. That was gnarly, but fortunately she's on her own and she doesn't have to worry about anybody attacking her on the side.
So the right way to kind of carb load would be a big lunch, I guess. And then, I mean, these guys, with these riders and, well, guys and ladies, kind of sweat a ton when it comes to this indoor cycling. So lots of electrolytes, maybe a gel or two during the race, and then, like you say, some recovery. So to carb up and make sure they're getting the right amount of proteins to build the broken down muscles back up again.
And it's vitally important that you do that, it enables that recovery and it just helps you get back on the bike and do your job again tomorrow. She may not be racing again tomorrow, but she'll want to go out for an easy ride. This has been an effort. Go out for an easy ride, spin the legs, and who knows, Friday may do a long ride again.
Of course. So as we speak, Jo is slow. She's not giving up. She's slowly bringing this gap down, but I think it's a little bit too late on that downhill. I think Courtney's got her in the bag. She's in the last kilometer. But interesting to see is that the gap between Francis and Jo is very, very close. So Francis putting in a time trial effort to try and catch Jo for second spot. But the Gumtree race bike rider almost at the finish line.
Yeah, that's a win, a very good win. Nicely ridden, especially riding off Jo on those drags that were difficult enough to hurt a rider. And she's done incredibly well. Won the King of the Mountains and the green jerseys in the process. Great riding.
Unbelievable. So, coming into the final straight. Just round the corner there, you can see there the 300 meter to go. That's where Travis Stedman kicked to try and catch Andries just before the line in the men's race. They come around this corner.
200 to go.
It was very twisty and turny, but they wouldn't really have noticed. But in a real race, this would be quite a technical finish, eh? Coming around the corner, it would be tucking in. The sprinters would be tucking in on the inside there, all the lead-out trains. And Prudential Ride London finished the Virtual Tour Durban. Here's the ladies winner, Courtney Webb, coming across the line to take home the ladies trophy in the very first Virtual Tour Durban.
Well done, Courtney. Great ride, and well done, Jo. That's a good second place finish. And let's see you ladies fighting it out, battling it out again next week in the second one of the Aquila Tour Durban.
We encourage and challenge all lady cyclists to get involved. I know there's a lot out there who are not on the start line, as well as in the men's race. We're hoping to see the whole Office Guru under 23 racing team on the start line next week, make it a little bit more competitive. And Catherine White has left us a comment there in our Facebook live stream saying Tyron White won today's race. So I think that's Tyron. It must be Tyron's mom. Which is confirming that Tyron won the race. So let's not confirm that. We'll post the race results on our Facebook page, Sport SA Talent Facebook page. But that's it. That's a wrap for the very first Virtual Tour Durban. Let's head over to the front screen and sign you guys out. Massive thank you to our sponsors before we sign off. Let's bring up our sponsors page. So a massive thank you to Aquile, Durban, the city themselves, the warmest place to be this time of year. Cornubia Mall, Cycle Lab, the Sharks, and of course all contributing to the Domino Foundation. Let's head over to the donations page. There you go. Final chance to get your, well, not the final chance, but a final chance to scan the code to get your donations in. Thank you to all our donators. Your contribution go a very long way towards the Full Digger Foundation and the Domino Foundation. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to Dualhof Wines. Let's head over to the start line. So there we are, Tony. Say how's it to the fans there.
Good job, Milo. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to everyone involved. Thank you to the sponsors. We'll sign you guys off for this week. Tune in next week, same time, same place, for the second event in the Aquile Virtual Tour Durban. Cheers, guys. Have a good evening. Bye.
Cheers.